Question. Do you know the very first school that you were part of? If you do remember that very first school, raise your hand. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask anybody. You remember your very first school. Okay. Now, next question. You don't necessarily have to raise your hand for this. But did any of you, when I said, think about that first school, did any of you think, first of all, about your family? In fact, if you did, raise your hand. Did we get any? Okay, well, good, you know. But understandable. It's a trick question. You know, I do that now and then. And, of course, we think of school as a building and teachers and all that's going on there. On the other hand, to recognize, especially on this feast, that the greatest school that is our first and hopefully our best over a lifetime is family. We remember that on this feast of the Holy Family. And it's in family that we first learn how to walk and how to talk, how to experience what love is, and how to learn how to share some of that love and goodness with others. How to say please and thank you. How to forgive and apologize when you need to be forgiven. All of those realities are at the core of what the best school is. We need all the other things too, but this is the school of being human. And in addition to that, hopefully in family life, we first experience some sense, it may be vague, of a God who created us, who loved us, who sent his son Jesus to be our best friend and part of us. There again, can there be any better schooling than that? And to be grateful for that as the foundation of our lives. And we know that that's phase one, but hopefully as we go through life, we're still open to the school of family and of the wider human family and what we experience there. And how through all of that, through all the ups and downs of family life, through all the phases we go through, that still we can have that sense, God, you're in the midst of this, and love is what it's all about, even when love is difficult. Now, I'm going to share a little of the quote from the first reading from Sirach, and I'm going to say ahead of time, that I admit this is somewhat self-serving, okay? You'll see what I mean. Because in Sirach, he talks about family, and he talks about how you're supposed to treat fathers. And please remember, I am Father Norm, okay? And so being mindful of this, I thought, well, I definitely got to read this, where in Sirach he says, my son, take care of your father when he is old. I mean, I'm almost there, you know. Okay, take care. You'll take care of me, right? You remember Sirach. And then grieve him not as long as he lives. And here too, some may wonder about this already. Even if his mind fail, be considerate of him. Kindness to a father will give you long life. So, from time to time, you know, because I'm going to be 79, and another year I'll be 80. Hopefully keep hanging in there, and I'm going to be reminding you of this, okay? And at least be obedient to this Father. And thank you, because on the other hand, you folks have been so wonderful. And on a more serious note, obviously, that caring for parents, and I can remember even for me, you've heard this before, my mom raised me as a single parent. She had a rather lengthy illness in the last few years of her life, and that was difficult. Part of it, I have to admit, even briefly, I had a certain resentment. I got over it quickly with the Lord's help and prayer. But the resentment was my mom wasn't then the vital, vivacious, fun-loving person I had always known her to be. And it was hard to watch that. But again, a reminder that we love even when love is demanding or even in love hurts. We love anyway. And all of you, I'm sure everybody here has a story, possibly about parents or other family members or even young people who, thinking about the whole reality of people who have some form of dementia or other illnesses they're dealing with and struggling with. And that our call right there, from the time we were babies, we learn, hey, love. Always love, even when it's hard. And so coming back to that, remembering that with people in our lives, and maybe it's through that that really we learn to love even deeper. Because when love is easy, it's good that it's easy. Much of family life hopefully is. But on the other hand, when it calls us to go the extra mile, it's calling us to a deeper love, the kind of love that Jesus showed us and is with us. And in saying that, another reality is we know in family life, there's difficulties. There's one set of difficulties when you're raising 2 or 3 little kids underfoot. Another set of difficulties, maybe when they're teenagers. And then my mom could tell you that about me, but she's in heaven, so she's not going to tell you. Anyway, and then every stage, marriage and aging, all of that, to know that. But that's not to have a negative thought, love is difficult and all of that, but that somehow in it, through it, we're strengthened, and in it, through it, we can believe, hey, I touch the life of another human being, and isn't that what matters most? And in saying that, we look at the Holy Family because we can see them and kind of almost like idealize them in this sense. You know, the beautiful Christmas card with the Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in the manger. It can be beautiful, but we already know that there was no room in the inn. They came a long journey. That barn probably didn't smell too well. So it wasn't all just a nice Christmas card. And then, and I want to go here, again, we can learn from the Holy Family what they endured and the difference that faith and believing God, you're somehow here somewhere, that difference it makes. So we know that one of the beautiful religious experiences that Mary and Joseph had was when the Magi came. Next week, we'll be talking about Epiphany and what that meant. And remember, it's the wise men who came from far away and came to their home and praised Jesus and offered gifts. The family must have been so touched, so moved. So another sense of, wow, God, you're here. And this is a reminder of this blessed child we have. But then, and now I'm going to take up right where today's gospel from Matthew, where it starts, that we just heard it. When the Magi had departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you. Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him." Just after the Magi, then they get this news. It had to be tough. And then being told, hey, you got to get out of here. You got to go to Egypt. Egypt, even back then for the Israelite, wasn't that friendly a place. But you got to go. And then the angel says, stay there until I tell you. Understandably, again, Joseph might have said, well, how long is that going to be? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 2 years? When are you going to tell us? Even Mary and Joseph, and we're there too, live with uncertainty. A lot of times we want to have some measure of control or understanding what the future is, and we're unsettled if we don't. But again, stay there until I tell you. They had to move toward that deeper sense, maybe not right away, of trusting God, you're in this. And then, of course, Joseph did that. I mean, he was a good family member, is protective, and took the child and his mother by night, departing for Egypt. Again, that had to be so difficult. He stayed there until the death of Herod. And then when Herod had died, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream when he was in Egypt. And now he says, rise, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who taught the child's life were dead. And so he rose and he went to the land of Israel and gathered there, especially in the region of Galilee. And one more time they had to up and leave. We think of immigrants today. They were immigrating in various ways, and yet somehow trusting the Lord and finding the people who reach out to them and welcome them. And in saying that, again, one more time, we see this family had serious issues and difficulties. And even we don't know how Joseph died at a young age. We don't know all those details, but we know that somehow, some way, in the midst of it all, through it all, that there was that sense, God, you're guiding us. God, you're with us in this. Help us to trust that. And a reminder again for every one of us in our daily lives and with our families that we're able to say, Lord, this may not be easy. Lord, I'm still not sure where it's all headed. Lord, I'd rather be settled, and sometimes we're settled and then we get unsettled all over again. But in the midst of it all, Lord, we know that school of love is the school of love that teaches us to love in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, in whatever's going on. We choose all the more to love anyway. And humbly, Lord, we realize we need your grace in prayer to be open to that love working in us and making a difference. We can be resilient. Maybe we get down about a lot of stuff, but with God's help and prayer and faith community, we can get back up and go on loving again. Take that quiet moment. What's any of this that maybe you needed to hear about something in your life now or past, or even something that's coming up in the future that you may have some legitimate concern about? God bless.